Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking into something pretty specific from the source material you sent over. A claim linking a U.S. court decision on tariffs to a big predicted rally in Bitcoin. Sounds a bit unusual, right?
It really does. Yeah, we're stepping away from, the usual crypto narratives for a moment. The article we're digging into draws this direct line between a court ruling on Trump's tariffs and where they think Bitcoin might be heading. It's definitely an unexpected angle.
Okay, so our mission here is to unpack this. We need to figure out, well, what exactly did this court do? Why would someone connect that specific action to Bitcoin? Who's making the prediction? And crucially, what signals are they pointing to in the source to back it all up?
Right. It's all about pulling out those key insights from the material provided.
So let's get right to it. What's the main prediction laid out in the source?
The headline claim is that Bitcoin is basically set for a significant rally. They're talking potentially towards $120,000.
$120,000.
Huh.
Okay. And the analyst making this call, the one connected to the tariff news, the article name's Pav Hundal, is that right? Lead analyst at SwiftText.
That's the one, yeah. Pav Hundal. And he identifies a very specific catalyst in the source material, this action by a U.S. federal court.
Which court action are we talking about?
It's the U.S. Court of International Trade. According to the article, they reportedly blocked most of President Trump's tariffs right around May 28th.
Okay, and the reasoning mentioned in the source, it says the court argued Trump had, well, overstepped his authority with those tariffs.
Exactly.
Now, the big question, I guess, is tariffs, courts, how does that connect to Bitcoin? This is where the source gets interesting.
Right. So Hundal apparently sees this court decision as a really big deal. The source quotes him calling it an epic mic drop.
An epic mic drop. Wow. Okay, so why such strong language? What's the thinking there?
Well, the argument presented is that this ruling will intensify momentum behind Bitcoin because, according to Hundal in the source, it blows a hole in trade talks. And that, he suggests, leads to a significant repositioning in the market.
A repositioning,
Right.
Meaning money moving around.
Precisely. The idea seems to be that removing this layer of sort of trade policy uncertainty frees up capital to flow differently.
And where does Hundal claim that capital is going?
Into Bitcoin, primarily. The source says he talks about a wall of money coming into Bitcoin.
A wall of money? From where?
He mentions corporations, the spot Bitcoin ETFs, which have obviously been huge here in the U.S., and also retail investors jumping in.
Does the source give any, hard numbers on that money flow?
It does mention one specific data point for the ETFs. U.S.-based spot Bitcoin ETFs saw inflows of $2.75 billion just in the trading week ending May 23rd, so that's right before this court decision.
Ah, okay. So the timing is key to his argument then. This court order lands while money's already flowing in.
Exactly. Hundal explicitly says in the article, or is quoted saying, that the ruling just accelerated that rotation into risk assets across the U.S. and Asia.
Risk assets. So the idea is less trade tension makes investors more comfortable with assets seen as, well, riskier. And Bitcoin is being put in that category here.
That seems to be the framing in this context, yes. Reduced friction, more appetite for assets like Bitcoin that are sensitive to global sentiment shifts.
It's probably helpful to know what the market was actually doing when this analysis came out. What does this source say about Bitcoin's price then?
Good point. The article mentions Bitcoin was trading around $107,750. It had actually hit a new all-time high not long before, $111,970 on May 22nd. But then, according to the CoinMarketCap data they reference, it was down about 3.36% over the 7 days leading up to the article.
Okay, so this prediction of a rally towards 120K house is being made during a bit of a pullback right after a peak. Interesting timing.
Yeah, it adds some context.
Now, to really get why tariffs are even part of this conversation for Bitcoin, does the source give any background on that link?
It does. It touches on the history. It mentions that when Trump first brought in those tariffs on Canada, Mexico, China back in early February, and then there was that executive order in April about reciprocal tariffs.
Right. I remember that period.
Well, the source says that was widely seen at the time as a major reason Bitcoin actually fell below $100,000 and sort of stayed suppressed there until early May. The argument being that kind of macro uncertainty, the trade tensions, just weighed everything down, especially riskier assets.
And what's Hundal's take on that past impact, according to the article?
His view, as quoted, is that the trade war likely delayed a meaningful greed rally, but it didn't bury it. The trend is higher. So he seems to see the tariffs as just a temporary speed bump, I guess.
Oh, makes sense in his narrative.
Yeah.
Did the source mention anyone else reacting to this court news?
Yeah, a couple of quick reactions highlighted. It mentions BitMEX co-founder Arthur Hayes just putting out buy everything round news.
Okay. Punchy.
And also a crypto analyst, Bitcoin Ranchi, asking something like, so Trump tariffs are illegal. Does that mean we get green candles all around tomorrow?
Right, so that captures that immediate market reaction, doesn't it? Seeing this as a potential quick bullish trigger.
Exactly. It shows the kind of market psychology the source is describing.
Now, it's important to note, the source does say the Trump administration filed an appeal, right?
Yes, that's mentioned. They reportedly appealed the decision. But Hundel's perspective, according to the article, is that it might not matter much for the immediate sentiment.
How so?
His view seems to be that the news of the ruling itself already shifted market psychology. That signal has been sent, and the change in mood might stick around, whatever happens with the appeal later.
Okay, so beyond the big catalyst, the court ruling, does Hundel point to any other, data signals in the market that support his bullish view right now?
He does, yeah. The source says he mentions seeing a solid floor for demand on spot Bitcoin. So, basically, strong buying interest at current prices.
And anything else?
He also highlights what he calls a very solid consensus for $120 in the option markets.
The options market, so people betting on future prices.
Essentially, yeah. If there's a strong consensus there for 120K, it means a significant number of traders are positioning for Bitcoin to actually reach that level. It reflects market expectation.
Got it. Does the source bring in any other perspectives on price predictions, just to give a bit more context?
It does, briefly. It mentions Jeff Kendrick from Standard Chartered. He also sees Bitcoin hitting $120,000. But his timeline is different. He's looking at the first half of 2025.
So quite a bit further out than Hundel's seemingly more immediate view.
Right. And Kendrick apparently sees it going even higher, maybe $200,000 by the end of 2025, driven by other things like stablecoin growth. The article also throws in a mention that some top bulls think the cycle peak could be way higher, like $220K to $300 per K range.
So you have Hundel linking 120K to this very specific recent event, making it sound potentially imminent. And then you have others seeing that same target or higher, but on a much longer time frame based on different, maybe more structural factors.
Exactly. It's quite a contrast in timelines and drivers, all mentioned within the same source material.
And of course, we should mention the source includes the usual disclaimer, right? That none of this is investment advice. There's always risk involved.
Absolutely. Standard, but important. These are analyses, interpretations of events and data from the perspective of the analysts cited in the article.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up for you, the listener. We've dug into this source material connecting a specific U.S. court decision on tariffs to a prediction from one analyst, Pav Hundel, that Bitcoin could be heading towards $120,000 fairly soon.
Yeah, we've unpacked the reasoning presented in the source. This idea of the ruling being an epic mic drop, blowing a hole in trade talks, and helping accelerate a wall of money into risk assets like Bitcoin. We looked at the ETF flows mentioned, the options market data.
And remember, this is all drawn directly from the analysis and perspective presented in the source material you provided us. We're just breaking down what's in there.
So maybe a final thought for you to consider, based on everything we've discussed from the source. You've got that $120,000 target. But notice the different time frames mentioned. Hundel seems to see it as potentially imminent, tied directly to this court news. Kendrick from Standard Chartered forecast the same level, but not until sometime in the first half of 2025.
That's a big difference in timing.
It is. So the question to maybe mull over is, how might these very different views on when Bitcoin might hit 120K, and crucially, why a single event versus longer-term trends, influence how you interpret the current market signals discussed in the article?
Definitely something to chew on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.